online, on your phone, and on air. This is Faith Talk 99.5, KDIS, Little Rock. He's just a regular guy with a cool job that God loves for some reason. Welcome to the Steve Marston Show, a daily journey in learning how to live more like Jesus, conversations with those that God is working through, and dad jokes. It's the most unique show you'll hear today. Now, here's Steve.
All right, thanks so much. We are thrilled to be with you again today. Welcome to the Steve Marston Show. We like to think of this as your afternoon dose of encouragement. Glad that you are along. Producer Tommy is here as well, and we're going to be doing something a little fun today. We're going to be experimenting with the open mic, and what we mean by that is while the radio audience will go away for commercials, we will stay streaming, talking to you, chatting with you in the chat rooms, and we're just going to see how this goes. We're going to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, okay? And you can join us by going to one of the many different sites that we are streaming live to: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, as well as LinkedIn and Rumble. All 6 of those have our stream going right now. Of course, we're on 2 amazing radio stations, Faith Talk 99.5 in Little Rock and AM 630, The Word in San Antonio, deep in the heart of Texas. So thank you for being with us wherever you are and whatever you are doing this afternoon. So as we get started today, I wanted to talk a little bit about next post that I saw. You know, it used to be called Twitter. Now it's all cool and fashionable since Elon renamed it to X. And it's from a guy who I look up to. You know, there are some guys and girls that you just, you know, see them and think, man, I wish I had what they had. Do you know what I mean? Being able to be as close to Jesus as they are. Well, this is one particular guy, and he is mainly by trade a Christian music DJ, and he's syndicated all over the country. His name is Brant Hansen. Perhaps you've heard of him, perhaps not. But he's also an author, and he's a guy who I just love because his view of life and his view of circumstances just a little bit different than everybody else's. You know, he just sees things from a slightly different perspective. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's people in your life that just seem like, while everybody else sees A, those people look and see, well, there's B, C, and D as well, right? Well, that's why I really like this guy. And I love his books. I love his radio show. I love his podcast. I'm just a big fan of him. And I've had a chance to interact with him a couple of times. And he's just someone who is all about discipleship, as am I, finding ways to live and act and be more like Jesus. And a lot of the times he focuses on really just a couple of areas. 1, forgiveness, and 2, anger or the lack thereof. And I think he feels like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that he feels like if we can conquer those 2, we're going to be well on our way to having the kind of life that Jesus originally carved out for us. So Brant had this post that I just thought was really pretty powerful and really straight to the point, because so many times people will post things and just leave it there without going that kind of little extra. And that's what Brant excels in, the little extra. That takes just a normal, everyday, yeah, that makes sense. Man, we should do that kind of thing, to a whole nother level of like, wow, that's really powerful. And here's what he said. And again, it's not so much the length of what he said, but just the impactfulness of the principle. He said, there's nothing about Jesus's teaching that suggests there is an extra class of quote unquote Christian that's not a disciple. Okay, I can agree with that. Yeah, there's no such thing as a Christian who is not a disciple. Yeah, I get on board with that. And most people would have left it just like that, meaning Okay, there's your challenge. You have heard all about Christ. You are a Christian, so you are expected to be a disciple. Message sent, message received. But Brant goes the extra step, and he says, you are either endeavoring to love your enemies or you're just adding to the noise. Oof. But that's so true, isn't it? When we really stop and we think about what Jesus has called us to do. Now, I know some of you will immediately throw up some red flags and say, wait a minute, you don't understand what I've been through. You don't know the relationship that I had with my mom, or that I have with my son, or the way this person has mistreated me, or a million and one other things. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't know. But what I do know is that this is a powerful principle that Jesus laid out. These were not just words that Jesus was saying to make us feel better or to try to give us a standard that we could not reach or anything else. When Jesus said for us to love our enemies and to pray for those who despitefully use you, that wasn't by accident. That wasn't some kind of choice that we have as disciples. Because again, as disciples, we are supposed to be followers, and followers do what the master teaches. That's the whole principle. You can look at it in our culture as being an apprentice to someone in a trade field. You've heard of people that are plumbers, and they have people that apprentice with them and learn how to do the job with the oversight of the master worker. Well, that's what we're called to do as well. And when Brant says that we are either endeavoring, I'll get it right in a second, to love our enemies, or we're just adding to the noise, that's so true, so powerful. And again, I can hear in my mind your arguments and your, well, wait, what? But you don't understand. Nobody's trying to say that you didn't experience whatever it is that you experienced. No one is trying to deny your feelings and to say those emotions aren't just and those emotions aren't righteous even. However, these things that Jesus was talking about, loving your enemies, praying for those who despitefully use you, those aren't to set those other people free. Those aren't saying they get by with whatever harm they've caused in your life or in your family's life. No, what these principles are doing is helping you to heal. See, Jesus will take care of the other person. We have to let him do that. We have to come to the point where we say, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to be consumed with whatever it was I was hurt with. I'm instead going to turn it over and let God deal with them. And I'm going to do what I can to love them, to pray for them. Does that mean you have to have a relationship with them? No. Especially if it was a serious, hurtful situation. No, nobody expects you to be BFFs. But what the expectation is to allow God to take that hurt and to allow God to turn it all around, because you can't do it on your own. This is not try hard enough and you can love them. Try hard enough and you will be able to pray for them. No. This is a work of the Holy Spirit, giving it to him and letting him change your heart, change your attitude. That's what it's all about. All right, we've got more of the Steve Marston Show coming up. Stay where you are. We'll be back.
You're stuck on the side of the highway. Well, I'll tell you, the first thing you should do to get off the side of the highway is to call East End Towing. I mean, they're part of the Arkansas Tow Recovery Board.
So,
they're licensed, they're insured.
Those of you that are
I
watching
use them
on
all the
live
time.
stream,
Whenever I need some help, I give them a call. Here's the number I
you see
use,
the questions that we got
888-8849. That's 501.
Trivia question.
888-8849.
So you play along with this
anytime, anywhere.
Move through. And
Just
we've got the chat feature
IRS
open, and I know there's some people that are already there
No one wants to
watching
deal with the IRS,
viewing
and
us.
now you don't
We've got a
have
lot
to.
of them.
The good news is
All
legal
kinds
tax
of
defense has been successfully
Welcome.
negotiated
Glad
with the
that you're
IRS
joining
for
us
more
here.
than 15 years.
On the
It
Steve
doesn't
Marston
matter
Show.
how
Again,
much
this
you
is
owe,
kinda
whether
new.
it's
This is kinda
$5,000 or
where we're,
$5 million.
staying
You
on
deserve
the
the
air
best in the business
throughout
on
the
your
program.
side, and that
kinda
is
doing an
legal
open
tax
mic.
defense.
Here's
Even
another
if you're working with
question.
someone else and just
What
want a
was the
second
name of the
opinion,
city
there is no
whose
cost or
wall collapsed
obligation to
after the
call.
Israelites
They can
marched
prevent
around?
levies, liens, wage
It's in your
garnishments,
choice.
even file back tax returns.
Bone up on
And
your
the best
Bible
news about
knowledge
legal tax
as,
defense
as
is
we-
they won't take your case
And
unless
again,
they know
we'd
they will
love to chat
reduce
with you
or
in
eliminate your
real
tax
time,
debt.
on
Call
the
Legal
live
Tax
stream.
Defense
So,
right now for a
please go
free,
ahead.
no-risk
Let us know where you're
consultation.
from, where you're
800-292-7875.
Stay connected. We're excited about being able to
800-292-7875. You
bring
have
this.
nothing to
If it's
lose but
something that
everything to
you're,
gain.
digging, you're gonna stay around with it and do it maybe every day.
800-292-7875.
Feel like you're trying to push a
I've got
boulder
to- I've got to
uphill
run
wearing
next door, Tommy. I've got to go
Do you
get
run
the
or
book.
manage a local business today?
Jeez.
You're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help.
Tons of people already watching on the Steve Marston Show Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channels. The YouTube channels just keep blowing up. They are doing well, and we're having tons of views. I know producer Tommy was telling me we had something like, I forget how many. I mean, it's in the 100,000 views, I think, right, on the channel. Really, really neat stuff, and we thank you for that. It's all about you for liking this little radio show and podcast and live stream and making it fun. Okay, we've been telling you a lot about this all month. It's the book that Greg Laurie has written. Greg is the pastor of the church in California. It's a Harvest Ministries is what the name of his ministries, and then the I'm having a mind. It's called The New Beginning. Thank you. It's A New Beginning, which is a radio program that Greg Laurie hosts, and you hear him on AM 630, The Word in San Antonio every day at noon. You hear the program in Little Rock on Faith Talk 99.5 every morning at 10 a.m. Well, we're teamed up with Greg and his team there at Harvest to give away this book, Lennon, Dylan, Alice, and Jesus. It's a spiritual biography of rock and roll. So to win, and we got multiple copies of this to win, you can go to the station's website, am630theword.com or faithtalk995.com to sign up to win. That's all you got to do. No, jumping through hoops or spelling supercalifragilisticexpialidocious backwards or anything. We'll just give it to you if you're interested in having it. And this was pretty neat. I pulled this out from the book. It said the story of John Lennon's life was that he was always looking for the answer, looking for the thing that was going to stop the pain and make him feel whole. He tried to fill the emptiness he felt inside with money and fame, and that didn't work. Just a little bit from the book, Lennon, Dylan, Alice, and Jesus. And again, it just traces the spiritual roots, believe it or not, of rock and roll. And Greg Laurie does a great job with that. Again, go get signed up to win these books that we're giving away. Okay. Every week we do a review of the Babylon Bee, where we take some of the silly stuff they've got there and just bring it to you, because it usually is really funny. And they do a good job of satirization and kind of poking fun at not only politics and the culture, but also of the Christian bubble. And I just love it. I think it's one of the best websites that there is. So when I came across this story, I'm like, this has the Babylon Bee's fingerprints, or maybe would they be bee prints, whatever, all over it. It's all over. And it's like, this is not real. This cannot be. Because I saw it post the other day, and then I didn't see anything else about it. So I thought, that's satire. Somebody maybe on X or Facebook or something took it as real, and it's been debunked that it's not. But oh no, it is real. And I'm going to show you a picture of this. It's this statue of Donald Trump. Now, I'm not making this up. I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but there's a group of evangelical Christians along with some Jewish leaders that got together and they made this statue. And look, this is not just, a little handheld statue, not like some kind of little Oscar size, award statue. No, this thing is 22 feet high. 22 feet high. It's made out of gold. And again, this sounds so much like the Babylon Bee. They call it Don Colossus. And it's looking over Trump's golf course at Doral. All right. And there's a pastor who kind of gave I don't know what you would call it, the dedication of this thing. And the first thing he said was that this is not the golden calf. We do not worship anyone but Jesus Christ. And I'm thinking, if you have to say that, if you have to come out and say that, that's a problem. I mean, look, and look, President Trump was there, or not there in person, but he did call into the event, and they actually put the phone up to the microphone and had him address the crowd that was there. And this just reeks of Trump, because look, I voted for Trump 3 times. Don't get me started on that. I look at Trump as the better alternative than anything else that's been presented over the last several years. Okay. So don't get mad at me over that, because I know there was really no other alternative on these last 3 elections. But to say that Donald Trump doesn't poke the bear and try to get under the skin of people, he does consistently. And I think this is another example of it. Now, maybe some of the more cynical people will say this was his idea. I don't believe that. I think there are some, I don't want to say sycophants. That's maybe a little strong, a little stiff, but there are some enthusiastic Trump people who made this image, this statue, that took it upon themselves to do it. Trump didn't stop them. Trump got word of it and allowed them to continue to do it, because again, this is his property at the Doral Country Club. So, I mean, at any time he could have said, no, guys, this is appreciate, the gesture, but let's not do this. But he does. And of course, the other side has lost their minds over it. They think, they trace it back to the golden calf with Moses and Aaron, which if they knew their Bible better, they would say the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, because Nebuchadnezzar is the one that was the king of Babylon who set this enormous statue of himself up to be worshiped. And obviously Trump's not going to do that, but his opponents think that he is. And I think that really makes the president laugh. I really do. I think that gives him some giggles, just like a kid. So but again, it is in poor taste. We're better than this. We really are, as this side of the political aisle, this side of, the cultural wars and everything. But this is self-inflicted wound. This is not good. All right, we've got more of the Steve Marston Show coming up. Stay with us.
If you're considering investing in precious metals, don't wait. The Iranian conflict.
Steady here on the online stuff, because that's what it has been doing. When we hit the commercials for radio, it's been fluctuating back and forth. We're holding steady with that. So this is maybe we'll see. But again, we're just looking forward for you to shoot us a comment, shoot us a question as well. And I mean, what do you think about President Trump's statue and big golden image to himself there in the route? I'd love to get your comments on that. And you can hit us up here
that's when investors turn to
on
gold
the
and silver. Make
video
your
streams
moves
that
now.
you're watching
Call
here.
Advantage Gold
And
at 800-900.
we've got an interview coming up with
Call 800
a guy from Focus on the Family.
That's
He's going to be on, and he's going to be telling us about
In a world where more and more people decide what's right and wrong,
a big event
based on how
that
they
they've got
feel,
coming up
what happens
with the
when
250
become the
rededication
only moral
thing.
standard.
That's
If
going
emotions
to be
alone
happening
define truth,
in
then who
another couple of days. I
decides
think it's the
why
18th or
murder,
so.
theft, or
And
violence
Focus
are
on the
wrong?
Family is
And if
involved
someone
with
feels
it as well.
justified in
So
destroying property or
we're
harming
going to be able
others,
to
on what
talk to him about that. We'll do that here as soon as we get back out of break. Oh, there's an interesting question on the who is Jesus, or which disciple used to be a tax collector? They'll take away some of the answers here in just a second and leave the correct one. Dun, 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 dun. It is Matthew. Yeah. All right. So we're about 10 seconds from the radio audience joining us. So let's get back to it, shall we?
at PragerStore.com. That's PragerStore.com.
Without you, this radio station would not exist. Every day we strive to bring you messages of hope, life, and love. Now it's your turn to let us know how we're doing. If we have impacted your life in a positive way, please tell us your story. Call our Impact Hotline at 877-52-FAITH and tell us how the ministries on this radio station have changed your life. If there is ever a time what's we going need on to today, encourage each other, just leave us a little now comment. might be And it. like I say, Call our producer Impact Tommy Hotline will be at flashing them through as we
877-52
move
Faith.
through the rest of the half hour here together that we have today. And if you're just stumbling across us, we're here every afternoon, 3 o'clock Central.
It's every Thursday night
on
at
2
6
radio
and
stations
Saturdays at noon
talking
here
about the
on
discipleship,
Faith
talking
Talk
about being a better
99.5.
follower of Jesus.
It's
Okay,
unlike
here we
any
go.
Christian talk show you've ever heard. Welcome back to the Steve Marston Show.
Okay, we are back. Thank you for being a part of today's Steve Marston Show. We like to think of ourselves as your daily afternoon dose of encouragement. And we appreciate you joining us. You can always call us at 888-901-5454, 888-901-5454 to be on the program. And again, we are streaming all over the place on video, and we've got a ton of people watching. So thank you to all of you guys doing that. And drop us a comment there. We're waiting on Bob DeMoss to join us from Focus on the Family. He is going to be our guest today. And I think, Bob, are you with us here? I see the screen. Oh,
I'm here.
okay. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing super. I'm not sure I don't see myself, but maybe that's a better thing.
I don't see yourself either.
I
But
got
we'll
a
continue on
voice
here.
for radio is what they say. So a face
Right.
for radio, right?
Right, right. Well, we'll continue on, even though we can't see you, but we are glad that we can hear you. That's, like you say, the main thing here today. So let's get started talking about this event that's coming up. Gosh, I think it's the 18th, right? The rededication 250 that the president has kind of put together, and Focus on the Family has got a big part to play in it, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's actually this Sunday. America prays and rededicating our country. Which when's the last time in our recent memory we had a president, regardless of your political affiliation, but a president who called us as a nation to gather in D.C. for an entire day to pray. I mean, it's a big deal, and Focus is really honored to be a part of that.
It really is a big deal. And you're right. It is this Sunday, the 17th. I had the date wrong, but it is going to be a powerful just day of worship. And I know Chris Tomlin is going to be the kind of the lead worship pastor there, leading in song, but tons of other people are going to be there. And like I say, Focus on the Family is going to have a big kind of tie-in with Adventures in Odyssey. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So let's start with Adventures in Odyssey. For listeners who aren't familiar with it, a global brand, been around 39 years. It's an award-winning audio drama series that really invites listeners, primarily, say, 7 to 12, but the whole family really enjoys it. It's a captivating, fully produced production, right? And there are more than 1,000 of these episodes. And Steve, we've got, I would say, listeners in about 170 countries with 1.5 million weekly listeners. I mean, there are so many people who've been moved or touched by Adventures in Odyssey. And one in particular, I was having a conversation with Dallas Jenkins, the founder of the creator of The Chosen. And I just asked him, I was down in Midlothian with him, and Paul McCusker from who was at Focus on the Family and wrote a lot of the different dramas. I said to him, what was your influence when it came to causing you to be creative? And he said, well, as a kid, I was raised listening to Adventures in Odyssey.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. And I asked him, like, who are some of your favorite characters? Well, the Barkley family and this and that. And that gave me, he said, the inspiration and the validation to like tell stories. And he says, I don't know that The Chosen as we know it today would have been there if it hadn't been for his experience with Adventures in Odyssey. So think about that,
Yeah, that is wild. It really is. We're visiting with Bob DeMoss. He is from Focus on the Family, and we are so thankful for the partnership that we have here at Salem Media with Focus on the Family. We've been able to do so many things and carry so many of their programs, including Adventures in Odyssey. And when you think about Odyssey, especially in this day and age where everything is video and everything is got to be quick, and people's attention spans continue to get shorter and shorter, having an old-fashioned radio drama that really captures an imagination is still works. I mean, because I'm sure there are people who said, oh, that's old-fashioned, that will never work in this society.
Yeah, you get people like that, but I will tell you this, something that causes great concern for me personally, but also for folks in the family, is that there's this, we call it a quiet crisis around stories, which means that there are a lot of the content today targeting kids, some as young as 18 months, have an agenda diametrically opposed to the moral center and faith that we, the Judeo-Christian values that we seek to instill in our own families. And I could go down the list, and I think a lot of listeners are going to know about Peppa Pig, Sesame Street, Coco Melon, Bluey, and Clifford the Big Red Dog. These are major multi-billion-dollar franchises who are normalizing things like gender fluidity and same-sex marriage and these other things that are just contrary to what we believe the sacredness of marriage, one man, one woman, those kinds of things.
Absolutely. And you even look at, I was talking with our buddy Adam Holtz from Plugged In, and another ministry that Focus has, and he's telling me about all these new Netflix series that are children's series that are doing the exact same thing, that and are even more open and more bold about it than those ones that you mentioned.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it's gotten so bad now. Steve, this is like almost you can't script this. So Snoop Doggy Dogg, from like the gangster rapper who's no model citizen for morality or purity or godliness or anything. I'd love to see him come to Christ, no question. But he complained just recently. He's a grandfather of 7 kids, and he took one of his grandsons to see the movie Lightyear, right? Based on the whole Buzz thing. And his grandson asked him in the middle of the movie, he says, Papa Snoop, how can 2 women in the film have a baby together? And Snoop's like indignant. He says, quote, it threw me for a loop. They're going to ask questions I don't have the answers to. And he didn't like being put in the middle of that. Well, if it's shocking to Snoop Dogg and causing kids to embrace and question stuff that we took for granted many years ago, that's where you need something like Adventures in Odyssey from Focus on the Family to inculcate the next generation with praiseworthy stories that reinforce the values we want our children and the next generation to have.
And here's the thing, too, about Adventures in Odyssey. It is not your just normal little, I hate to even use this term, but Sunday school kind of thing. There are some really quality stories that get you sucked in. I mean, the writing is good, the acting is good, and they are really professionally well done.
Yeah, there are. And there's, like I said, more than 1,000 episodes. So what we've done with the White House is we have created, we've kind of curated a list of 16 Adventures in Odyssey episodes that we've put up on family250.com. Anybody, whether you go to one of these events in DC or not, you can just, even now, the summer's coming up. If you're in the car and you want to talk about faith and family and the freedom and the history of America, just go to family250.com and you have 16 free episodes that talk about the, Independence Day and, World War II with Sergeant York, or I guess it was World War One. And, you go down the list, Lincoln, and these stories that just bring all these moments in our history to life and don't shy away from the faith that these men and women had. So it's a great opportunity for families to have that moment together away from screens where they can fill their head with some good stuff.
Bob DeMoss is our guest here on the Steve Marston Show. He is with Focus on the Family, and we are talking about this Adventures in Odyssey tie-in with the Freedom 250, the rededication that's coming up on Sunday. And when you talk about that, and you talk about obviously Adventures in Odyssey with these 16 special episodes that talk about not only the faith of those that came before us in our history, but also really kind of tell the real story, because unfortunately we're getting to the point where we've got so much rewriting of history of our founding, especially it gives kids the wrong idea from a very early age.
Yeah, Steve, I'm so glad you said that. It's funny how there's this, Paul Revere's Ride, and the storytelling around that has been in a lot of different history books and so on. I think it was a poem from Longfellow or something that they were basing it on, is factually inaccurate. And so our team, to the best of our ability, research the details of that midnight ride and the quote unquote shot heard around the world and all that, and created this special episode, the Midnight Rides, that folks can listen to and truly understand more completely what the history was there. There's one episode I thought was pretty interesting. It's called A Single Vote, and it tells the difference about what one vote can do. And it's a multi-generational story of how one vote in one election affected another election that was won by one vote. The outcome, the outcome of which was granting Texas to be a state. So it's one vote two times. The votes came down to one vote that gave ultimately Texas the right to become a state. So stuff you don't know, right? But it's entertaining.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. It was a single vote that put it over the top for Texas?
Yep. So there you go. Yeah, family250.com. You can get all that and a lot more. So
yeah, I'm so glad I came to work today. I learned something. This is awesome. Yeah. Bob DeMoss is our guest here from Focus on the Family. And yeah, you've got the 16 that are up there on the family250.com, but there's also the bonus content of The Legend of Squanto. Now, I did not know this until, gosh, I guess it's been just a few years ago. I heard the story, and I found out that Focus usually plays this every Thanksgiving Day as the radio program with Jim and John. So walk us through a little bit about that one, because that one will put goosebumps all up and down your body.
Yeah, so The Legend of Squanto, the difference between that and the other 16 Adventures in Odyssey episodes is The Legend of Squanto is actually part of our radio theater collection. So it's a 90-minute, it's kind of built in the same way, but you don't have Whit and Connie Wooten and, Eugene in there. So, but you have a historical look at how, like, Thanksgiving truly came about. Did a lot of extensive research to get it as close as we could get it to right. And of course, there's new discoveries all the time. But at the time, it is probably taken the best look at why we even have Thanksgiving. And it's, you have a slave, an Indian slave, Squanto, taken captive from his homeland. He overcomes injustice and exile. And he comes back and he really shapes early America in a way that a lot of history books don't even touch on.
Yeah, and he's able to quite literally save those first group of colonists from starvation by befriending them, because he did spend time in England as a slave and he was able to learn the language, whereas the Pilgrims didn't know the language. And I mean, it's just so many coincidences that you can't say, oh, well, that's just that just happened,
And it's really rich. This is the thing I love about all these stories, is that they are something the family can enjoy. I mean, if your kid's like on a sippy cup, I don't know they're going to really understand what's going on. But, the kids who are in the 5-6-year-old all the way up through grandparents can truly enjoy this experience. So it's a neat shared family experience. That when folks get together around one of the Freedom 250 events across the country, and again, there are events planned all the way through. Like there's a stock car race around the White House. There are a lot of other things coming, right? Plus the 4th of July celebration. So yes, families going to and from these events, go to family250.com, get these episodes. You'll thank me later, as they say.
Absolutely. Bob DeMoss, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on and telling us about this, because you're right. It is going to be just a series of events leading up to the big celebration on 4th of July. But I'm so thankful Focus has been able to tie in with it. And I just love the ministry of Focus and everything and the ripple that they have throughout all of things in our society, not just, marriage and family. It's so good. And you mentioned shared experiences. That's something we as families don't have enough of, with so many screens and so much else pulling at our time.
And all those screens and devices divide us.
And you're right.
It's a chance to pull it together again and enjoy each other's company and be present to answer questions that the kids will have in real time.
Absolutely. And again, the website is family250, family250.com. Again, thanks so much for your time, and we really appreciate you, Bob.
Thank you, Steve, and all that you do to get the word out. We are grateful for you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. That's Bob Mlst, everybody. And we're just grateful for that. That Focus on the Family has all of these episodes available. Again, they're for free, and you can run through those 16 with your family with the Adventures in Odyssey. And then, of course, what we talked about, The Legend of Squanto, which comes from their radio drama or radio theater series. So check those out. Again, family250.com, family250.com. Okay, we're continuing our open mic through the breaks here on radio. You can interact with us online through the video stream, and we'll continue to do that. And we're back with more after this. Don't move. Man, I thought that was a great interview. I thought, unfortunately, we couldn't get Bob's video to work for some reason, but man, it really is great what Focus does. And and I wasn't just blowing smoke. When I say that Focus really does those episodes well and well researched, and they're entertaining. Because listen, when I first heard of Adventures in Odyssey, and I thought, nobody's going to want to do that. And it's just going to be some silly little, thing that's going to insult intelligence of most people, even kids. But I was wrong. And it's a really a powerful series. And obviously so, because they've done over 1,000 episodes. And one thing I didn't get a chance to talk to them about, which I'm looking forward to soon, is being able to talk more about the movie. They're going to have a full-length feature for the first time of Adventures in Odyssey coming up real soon. So they're going to have more details about that, but everybody's kind of hush-hush right now, trying to keep it all on the DL. But again, thank you for watching, for where you are. Man, we've got people, all of our channels, well, not all of them, but almost all of them, have viewers on them right now. So thanks. This is somebody checks in, fabulous vibes, fabulous O vibes, and it says, I married my AI girlfriend, or I made my AI girlfriend my wife last week. Well, congratulations. Isn't that special? That's I always thought that was kind of a I didn't think that was real either, honestly. Didn't think that there was really something you could create in AI that would actually be like a girlfriend for you. I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts, but if that's what you did, fabulous O vibes, more power to you, I guess. Because I guess you could turn off an AI wife. All you gotta do is just, hit the power button, right? I mean, you don't have to live with her. So maybe he's onto something. I don't know. So we'll. Yeah. So hit us up where you're watching. Hit us up where you're listening. From what city and all that. We'd love to connect with you here. All right, we're coming back on the radio.
How long did Cain hate Abel?
How long?
Up to the point where he killed him.
Oh, I like that one. That one's good. Right up to the point he killed him. It's like these, the plane is having turbulence. It says, how do you think we could make it to the airport? I think we could make it to the side of the crash. All this fun stuff. All right, welcome back. The Steve Marston Show rolling on here. You can call us 888-901-5454, 888-901-5454. 5454. You can get on and ask us a question, talk about anything you'd like, within reason. And then you can also watch us live on the video streams where we've been interacting all day, even through the commercial breaks on the radio. And speaking of radio, thank you to those listening on AM 630 in San Antonio and Faith Talk 99.5 in Little Rock. Other things going on around the world. Let's check this out. Okay. Did you know Wordle was still a thing? Okay. Producer Tommy says yes. His eyes and ears both perked up just really quickly there. Wordle was so popular for a while because people would put their social media posts. I got the Wordle in, 3, or I got the Wordle in 6, or whatever, and then it just kind of went away. And I just assumed it kind of went away as well, but not so fast, my friend. Apparently the Wordle is actually going to be turned into a game show. Have you seen this? It's going to be on NBC. Jimmy Fallon is actually producing the program, and they're going to get Savannah Guthrie from the Today Show to host the program. Okay, now look, Wordle is a pretty easy formatted game. I have a pet peeve. I don't know, Tommy, if you know this or not, but I do have this pet peeve about like the Game Show Network and stuff. There's a reason why shows like The Price is Right and Wheel of Fortune and even Family Feud are still around after decades and decades, because the game's so easy. It's not hard to play. It's not hard to understand all the rules. And you watch all these game shows that they come up with nowadays, and there's all these big elaborate stages, and they've got these rules and this and that. No, none of that's ever going to work. Now, Wordle may work. I hope it does. I hope Wordle works, because the game itself, the concept itself, is pretty simple, pretty easy to grasp. But just keep it simple. But yet they want to spend $1 gazillion on these games, and nobody ever watches them because they're hard to follow. They're no good. Anyway, all right, I'm off my soapbox on that. Chris Pratt, you know him from the Adventure, not the Avengers. He's the Guardians of the Galaxy, and so many other things. He was in Parks and Rec and everything. He was on Ben Sass's podcast. Now, we've talked about Ben Sass a lot. He's going through pancreatic cancer right now, and was only expected to live just through the first part of this year. And now, obviously, he's still with us, which we're all thankful for. But he's been so bold about his faith, and he's been so upfront about his death. And he's been on just about every podcast and every news magazine outlet you can think of. Well, he also has a podcast, and I just love the title of it, Not Dead Yet. That's what he's titled his podcast. And he had Chris Pratt on, and they, of course, were interviewing Pratt, he and his co-host, and they do the entire interview. It's almost done. You know, when you get ready to wrap up and you say thank you for coming, and we really appreciate your time, and da-da-da. Chris Pratt kind of turned the tables and starts interviewing Ben Sass, and just tells him at the end, says, the world's going to miss you when you're gone. And he says, I'm going to miss you. So real sweet kind of moment, and really something that I think speaks volumes for Chris Pratt to see the realness of what Ben Sass is going through, and to be able to acknowledge it, and to be able to want to gain some kind of insight from it, because it's really what he was doing in that last few minutes of the podcast. He was kind of trying to pick his brain about how to live well. And again, this sounds morbid, but how to die well, because that's what Ben Sass is doing. So you can check that out again. It's the latest episode of Ben Sass's podcast called Not Dead Yet. What else is happening here? Oh, Mark Driscoll is back in the news. Now, if you don't know Mark Driscoll, odds are you probably weren't in the church bubble in the 90s, because he was one of the first people. In fact, I think he was the first to see the value of the internet, to be able to put his sermons online. And he grew his church there in Seattle from like just people meeting in an apartment to this massive campus that was huge. It was just an enormous church. It was called Mars Hill. And there's a wonderful little podcast about the rise and fall of Mars Hill. And a lot of it has to do, obviously, with Mark Driscoll. And Mark Driscoll was kind of a bully. He did use his authority over people and over employees to his advantage, and really was kind of a jerk through the whole thing, and not very pastoral-like at all. Now, if you listen to his sermons, you listen to the things that he talked about content-wise, you'd go, hey, man, yeah, I'm right on with that. But his actions outside just kind of almost negated all of what he would preach from the pulpit. So anyway, he has moved now to Arizona, where he has started another church. And again, he just can't keep from stirring the pot sometimes, because he is one of those guys that likes to stir the pot. And this one has got not only people on the opposite side, on the non-church liberal side, but also some on the conservative Christian side, all up in arms, because he had this post. Mary was a teen mom and Jesus had no earthly father. It's a good thing there was no Planned Parenthood in Nazareth. Now, I kind of look at that. I kind of say, well, he's got a point there. Of course, the liberals are all upset, calling for his head, because, you know, they love abortion and they love Planned Parenthood. The conservative Christians, especially Catholics, take it as a shot at Mary, which I don't think he was really trying to do. But Mark Driscoll just can't help himself but stay in hot water. So there you go. More of the Steve Marston Show coming up. Don't move.
One positive, encouraging thought can change everything. Motherhood is filled with beautiful. Nice to be reminded
we've got,
you're not alone. From Caleb Books comes positive and encouraging moments for moms. A heartfelt devotional featuring scripture, real-life stories, and encouragement from Cece Winans.
It's pretty interesting.
Kane, Naomi Rain, Hope Darce, and more. It's more than a devotional. Get your copy
Not a lot of people
and encouraging moments for moms
and that's
today,
okay.
whatever books are sold.
We all hear the radio
We would
ads
love
about
to be
the
able to,
IRS. They tell you to be
say
afraid,
hi to you,
to be
acknowledge
scared,
you,
and they try to frighten you into calling.
watching.
I'm not here
Because
to
I
do
see
that.
tons of
Tax
people.
relief.
Just hit us up where you're watching from. Let us know at work exactly what got going on. But we're curious to find that out. Something we'll bring up here in just a second when we come back with the radio audience is I'm going to be out tomorrow, and David Odell is our guest host. He's going to be in. David he's a good guy. He's a pastor, and he is a wonderful Bible teacher, and not everybody that does that can do this, and he does a really good job of guest hosting. We've had several come through.
800-575-6745.
Host for me when I've had to be out.
800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions.
He's really engaging.
Without
and
you, this
really
radio
kind of gets
station
the
would not
medium and
exist.
understands it.
Every
So
day we
we're,
strive
looking
to bring
forward
you messages
having
of hope,
him
life,
here
and
tomorrow.
love. Now it's
to
your
host the
turn to
program.
let
And
us
I'm
know
going to be
how
back
we're
on
doing.
Thursday.
If we have
Because
impacted,
my son has a track and field day. It's his last one since he's a sixth grader and be going up in the junior high next year. So dear old dad is going to go watch him in track and field day tomorrow. So that's where I'll be. All right, coming back here. Oh, we still got a minute. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't read a clock for some reason. So that's a really interesting question. It's on the screen right now. Which book of the Bible do we read about Mordecai? All those Old Testament books. Which one is it? Any guesses? Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. It's Esther, yeah. All right. Okay, here we go for real this time. About 10 more seconds and We'll bring the radio audience back.
You found a place where faith and fun are both taken seriously. Welcome back to the Steve Marston Show.
Yep, here we are just about ready to finish up the day. And before we do that, I want to let you know that coming up tomorrow, David Odell will be in for me. I have got a little appointment with my son tomorrow. He is going to participate in track and field day. So I'm going to be out watching and cheering for that most all day tomorrow. So I'm going to take the day off, and David Odell will be in. And look, he's guest hosted for me probably more than anybody else has, and just does a great job. He, it's one thing to be a pastor and a Bible teacher and to understand that and be able to communicate it from a pulpit, or maybe communicate it one-on-one, but to do it when you've got cameras and microphones and stuff, sometimes it becomes a little challenging, but David handles it and does it extremely well. In fact, one time I was listening as he finished up the show one day when he was working for me. And as soon as he finished, I called him and I said, "Hey man, you can't do this anymore for me." And you could just tell it crushed. I mean, you could tell it, he just was crushed by it. He didn't say anything, but you could just hear all the air kind of leak. And I said, "Man, you're too good." And he just started laughing. And he said, "Man, you really had me worried there for a second." But looking forward to him being back tomorrow. Okay, we've got Faith Between Your Ears. This is a Bible verse we try to learn every single day through the week to be able to hide God's word in our heart so that we'll have it in between our ears when we need it. And this one's fairly easy this week. It's Colossians 3:2. Set your mind, focus, intentional, be direct with that on things that are above and not on things that are the earth. Yeah, really powerful stuff when you really sit down and analyze it. It's Colossians 3:2. Do whatever it takes to memorize that and get it committed to memory, whether it's recording your voice and listening back to it over and over, or writing it out longhand, whatever. Let's memorize Colossians 3:2. Final thing we do every day is we like to send you home with a smile on your face, and we find the best video on the internet. And today's video is a millennial mom sharing with her family the music she grew up with. Watch this.
Hold up, wait a minute, put a little love in it.
It's a medley of Christian songs from like the 90s and early 2000s, and she's lip syncing like a champ. Like a champ.
I love it.
So good. I love that. That's a Christian mom, millennial, raising her kids right. No question about that. Okay. Thank you so much for everybody participating in our little drill we did today called Open Mic, where we kept the microphone on during the commercials on the radio so that we could interact with the live streamers. You guys were fun. Thank you for being here. I want to say thanks to Bob DeMoss from Focus on the Family for joining us. He was great as well. Check out family250.com for all those Adventures in Odyssey episodes. If you missed anything, get the podcast a little bit later on this afternoon. Producer Tommy, awesome job out of you as always. I'm back Thursday at 3:00. Till then, adios.
This is Alistair Bay. Consider this. What if your next trip wasn't just a vacation, but an opportunity to grow in your faith? This September, I have the privilege of teaching from God.